All right, so I was just doing a couple other little things to it. We'll go over it a little bit now that I got it open. So this is just the front plate originally from the Beetle. I cut it, well, as you can see right along there, just that's ended up being where it fit. I inverted the front bumper, put some holes in it to attach the screws to attach that to. You can see here, there's 4 bolts in here. That's what holds this to the actual main chassis. The other ones just hold these extra plates on the side. That's all that they were there for. Yeah, obviously melted a couple extra in the bottom there, the silver ones. So those other bolts were just holding these side skirts on, which actually allow me to attach the body to the bottom. They were needed. Same thing with the front piece there. I kept the 2 little back pieces. I cut them out of the actual bottom chassis. This on the ECX now for the back end. This piece here really isn't necessary. I kind of just added that as a spacer more than anything, just to attach some things to. That was from a completely different RC car, but if you look in right there, that's the plastic plate from the ECX Amp. You'll see it when you take apart the back end. I've actually turned it upside down and turned it around. I ended up having to trim a little bit of a piece off of it, but I used that to cut and just put a couple holes in the back of the chassis there to attach that to the top piece. The top of the strut tower, as you can see, I actually attached with 2 linkages from here to here to actually give it the structural stability side to side. And hold on a second, those 2 there, yeah, these 2 screws right here are also holding on part of the front chassis and 2 of the original holes in the back here that put the 2 chassis together, because these 4 screws here did go here, as you can see here, and there's these 4 screws back here. But so that's basically what I did. I just split it apart where it normally would, attached the front part of the chassis to the front, cutting a bunch of stuff off the wheel arches and everything, mainly just lopped the whole front end off. As you can see, I have the other piece down in the closet still. The back end, it was a lot of just chopping and hacking and stuff. That's all hidden behind the seat. You don't even see that as soon as you put the seat in there, so that doesn't matter, as you can see. I have now that I have my seat out, you can see the gimbal I built. That's just a couple of coat hangers and 2 servos stuck together. The coat hangers were just there to get around the 1 servo so that I could have those, the actual main pivot points in line, and then just run the linkage between the 2 arms. And it's just glued, base to the seat, glued, and then screwed through on the bottom. So that's that. Yeah, I finished clearing out all this because I changed the servo. I had a much faster, more powerful servo that I wanted to throw in. I was looking at it and thinking that if I would have left a little bit extra on here plastic wise, I could have screwed it in there, but then it would have messed everything up on the way that this mounted, so it was just easier to cut the notch out around it big enough, and that extra piece there. I know that you lose the clip to clip this back in there, but it's not drastic because, as you know yourself, the shifter is actually mainly what holds that all in there. Well, sort of anyways. I'm probably gonna end up having to glue that now because it's not actually sticking down in there. Just break one of those tabs out. No, I just might have to try to reach up in there and bend those tabs in a little bit to get that to stick in there, but yeah, so that was that part there. The bottom part of the dash that normally attached there, I actually just glued it on to the top part of the dash, so it actually attaches with that. There's no modifications at all done to the actual body of the car itself. That's all just, I removed it as you normally would. There's the 2 screws in the back, the 2 on the sides, 2 on the sides, the 2 in the front that are underneath of the bumpers, and remove the whole thing. And yeah, said just lopped off the front end there, right in the middle of the arches on the bottom frame. Flip that, a couple bolts through there to hold it on. That attaches to the front there, obviously. Put the bumper back on. I put a couple little slots in there and cleared out a bunch more of the plastic, as you can see where the little speaker was in the post, and that's a perfect spot for a battery to sit in there. yeah, there's not really much else that I had to do to actually get it all to attach. It was basically just chopping everything out. So yeah, chop it off in the middle of the arches, chop the notch out there to fit around the bracket for the top plate for the front of the chassis. You can also get at the servo pretty easily, as you can see here, like that. It's just six screws to take that out. The shocks, these are the modifications. You can see they're no longer the full springs. I just used a couple of there's some hot glue and stuff, but there's actually two of the bottom caps that normally fitted in there, and then a really short spring in there, so that it kills the full travel of it and everything. It like literally gets rid of probably 4 millimeters of the travel on the whole shock. Same thing with the back. They were actually a little bit longer, so I actually had to use two springs in there instead of just one. Right in the middle, you'll see that there's another one of the bottom cups. So there's only one cup at the top, one in the middle, one at the bottom there, and double springs, because as I said, they were a little bit longer. I bought a I think it was Racing kit of dampers for my MO3, which had a whole bunch of different springs and stuff. Of course, I only used a couple in it, so the rest of them work pretty good in this. Yeah, as you see, it's pretty solid and everything. So this actually is able to drive obviously separately. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of everything that I did to get her mounted in there. I'm gonna get a few pieces from the front chassis maybe just to build the arches again on here, which wouldn't really be overly hard to do, just to fill that in a bit more. The back end's already filled, just so it doesn't flick everything all up on the inside. So oh yeah, and the back motor plate too, I forgot. I cut it off and heated it to melt it a little bit, and used it to mount part of the back of that in there as well, just so that that didn't sag in there. So I suppose that was about the only other thing. But yeah, that's what I did. There wasn't any major modifications at all to the ECX chassis, except for putting the 4 holes in there for attaching it there. That was about it. And the one cut of the gray plastic plate right there. But that's about all I did to modify that. So most of the stuff I had was just laying around. I mean, there's some things you may have to get, like such as the shorter shocks, or figure something out with the shocks, but yeah, that's it right there. I'm about to start putting everything all back together again. I was just finishing putting these in there to get that extra little bit of support, because I only had just hot glue in these spots to hold that front there. And I know that it does wobble a lot now, but as you know, there's the 2 screw holes there that mount in on the side there and there, which stops that flop. So it actually is incredibly strong, like very rigid. It's fallen off of the table and I haven't broke it and everything. So, but yeah, that's the actual chassis build of it. So the tub, the rear wheel drive Beetle, the way it should be. Anyways, yeah, that was kind of a boring video, just showing a bunch of stuff like that, but that's pretty much everything that I did to get everything lined up. It was just a bunch of measuring and everything. It actually is off a little bit. The back end is actually off, like you'll notice where it lines up to there on the tire compared to where it lines up there on the tire. It's off by about 1 millimeter or so. So like it's when you're looking at the front of the car, it's just shimmied off to the right, like literally 1 millimeter, tiny little thing. The front was pretty easy to get centered and stuff. The back was just, I didn't have much plastic left because I'd already cut a bunch out from before I'd actually started to think about putting them together. So, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell. Hopefully that helps. If you got any questions, just ask.